In this documentary, we are looking at the sad decline to arguably one of South Africa's iconic firebrands emerging from the liberation movement. This is Julius Malema. We had firebrands like Harry Gwala, Chris Honey, Peter Mugabe, yet none surpassed Julius Malema in terms of depth, reach, and widths. Julius Malema was the rising start from the ANC Youth League that was spoken of as South Africa's future leader, as President of South Africa. Yet this dream evaporated over time, and everyone now knows the impossibility of Julius Malema of ever becoming the future President of South Africa. Julius Malema has started a descent, a decline, and this is the beginning of the fall of Julius Malema, the end. We are already speaking about the ghost of Julius Malema because he is a has-been, and what we are seeing now is merely a ghost of his past. Let us dive into it.
While South Africans watch their borders crumble under the weight of illicit trade, Julius Malema has retreated into a fantasy of a borderless Africa. By championing those outside the borders, he signaled to his own people that their specific economic anxieties are no longer his top priority. In Enugu, he demanded a continent without permits, while his constituents fought for the little economic slice left in the townships. But the walls didn't just crumble from the outside, they began to crack from within the movement itself. The departure of Floyd Shivambu in 2024 was a strategic divorce that stripped the EFF of its intellectual brain. Then the movement's voice followed. Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi walked away, leaving a silence that no amount of shouting can fill. Ndlozi was the party's most articulate defender. His retreat has left the EFF like a singer who has lost their range. The final indicator of this descent arrived in April 2026, when the East London Regional Court delivered a 5-year prison sentence. For Malema, the racism card has finally run out of credit, leaving him to face a reality where his freedom is now a matter of judicial mercy. What is left is the ghost of Julius Malema, a reminder of a populist fire that burned brightly until it eventually consumed itself.
Julius Malema was once the sharp edge of South African politics, the man who could tilt conversations, unsettle institutions, and command attention without permission. But power that does not expand eventually begins to circle itself. And when a movement begins to circle, it is no longer advancing. It is holding. And what holds without advancing does not remain power. It becomes an echo of itself, the ghost of its own momentum. The question South Africa must now confront is not whether Julius Malema still matters. It is whether he still moves, or whether we are witnessing the slow formation of the ghost of Julius Malema. The tension between vision and ground. Julius Malema's politics now sits in a growing tension between vision and constituency. The leader who rose by articulating the immediate anxieties of the working poor increasingly frames his message in continental terms, questioning colonial borders, emphasizing African solidarity, and arguing against hostility toward foreign nationals. In principle, this is a coherent ideological position. In practice, it intersects with a different reality. South Africa's labour market remains constrained. The informal economy is crowded. Competition for entry-level work and small-scale trade is intense. In that environment, political questions are not abstract. They are immediate. Who gets access? Who participates? Who survives? When leadership language moves beyond those pressures, even with principled intent, it can generate dissonance among sections of the base. Not always rejection, but distance. From disruption to predictability. This shift is also perceptual. Malema's confrontational style, once disruptive and politically energizing, has, over time, become more familiar. Courtroom exchanges and accusations of bias, which once reinforced an outsider narrative, now operate in a different public mood. one that increasingly emphasizes accountability. The rhetoric remains forceful, but its effect is less decisive. In politics, repetition without evolution carries risk. What was once disruptive can become predictable. Malema's ascent was not a product of branding. It followed a recognizable movement pathway. From his leadership in the Congress of South African Students, he entered the ANC Youth League in Limpopo, rising through regional structures to become provincial chairperson. By the time of the 2007 ANC conference in Polokwane, he was already a visible supporter of Jacob Zuma within Youth League ranks. He did not wait to become powerful. He exercised influence before holding national office. An early signal. In May 2002, during his tenure as COSAS president, a student march in Johannesburg's CBD escalated into disorder. What began as protest lost structure. Property was damaged. Informal traders were affected. The incident drew a pointed rebuke from Nelson Mandela, who emphasized standards of conduct expected of future leaders. The episode did not define Malema, but it illustrated a recurring tension, the ability to mobilize energy and the challenge of containing it. Forged in contest. In April 2008, at the 23rd National Conference of the ANC Youth League in Bloemfontein, Malema was elected president in a closely contested race against Saki Mofokeng. The conference was widely described as heated and disorderly. Delegates clashed, proceedings were disrupted. Intervention was required to stabilize and confirm outcomes. This was not a transition built on consensus. It was a contest shaped by a movement under strain. Malema did not rise in calm conditions. He rose in pressure. Projection of power. Following his election, Malema's stature expanded rapidly. Among supporters, he was increasingly viewed as a future national figure, sometimes compared ambitiously to leaders such as Nelson Mandela and Chris Hani. These comparisons often exceeded reality, but they reflected the momentum of the moment. His rise felt decisive. Break and reinvention. In 2012, Malema was expelled from the African National Congress. The intention was to end his political influence within the organization. It did not. In 2013, he co-founded the Economic Freedom Fighters, repositioning himself as an external challenger. The shift was immediate. In the South African general election 2014, the EFF entered parliament with just over 6% of the vote. By the South African general election 2019, it had grown to nearly 11%. This was not decline, it was recalibration. The stalwart momentum did not continue. In the South African general election 2024, the EFF's national support declined to below 10%, not collapse, not breakthrough, a plateau with slight contraction. In political terms, this matters. Movements built on expansion are expected to grow their base. When growth slows, the question shifts. Is the movement consolidating, or has it reached a ceiling? Internal reconfiguration. Alongside electoral stagnation, the movement's internal composition has shifted. Figures such as Floyd Shivambu and Mbuyiseni Ndlozi are less visibly central to the party's public positioning than in earlier phases. This does not necessarily indicate collapse, but it does suggest reconfiguration. In political organizations, such shifts often precede broader transitions. Political decline is rarely immediate. It does not begin with defeat. It begins with stillness. Momentum slows. Expansion halts. The sense of inevitability fades. Support does not disappear. It thins. And when power thins but remains visible, it does not vanish. It lingers. It echoes. It becomes the ghost of itself.